All right, let me say good afternoon to everybody, and let me just start off by saying that I am joined here today by Councilmember Brenda Stardig, who is the chairperson of Public Safety and Homeland Security. I'm also joined by Councilmember Dave Martin, who is an at-large city council person representing Kingwood to Clear Lake, and then I'm joined by Chief Rodney West, Houston Fire Department, and by Dr. Purse, who is over EMS. Let me just say to you that in, I believe it was November of last year, the Mayor City Council commissioned a work demands analysis by Facets of the Houston Fire Department. And that report has now come in, and I'm hoping that everyone has at least received the executive summary. I do know that my staff, along with the staff of Councilmember Brenda Stardig, has delivered the full report to all of the city council members as of today. After reviewing myself, the response time and staffing analysis model prepared by Facets Consulting, I've decided Houston Fire Department operations will need additional review and study. The report does point out the fact that in 2015, the Houston Fire Department responded to well over 300,000 emergencies. That's a lot. It does point out the fact that we are a growing city, much more urbanized than we have been in recent past, and there's a need to provide additional coverage of the city. But the report makes no recommendation for changes in HFD shift model, identifies no cost savings. I know a number of us were flipping the pages for the cost savings, did not find any. It does highlight certain efficiency measures, and it notes that the capital purchases and staffing were deferred, reduced, or delayed, let's say from 2011 because of a revenue shortfall or deficiencies in the city's budget. But it doesn't do, as I have read it and gone through it, it doesn't provide any analysis as relates to critical outcomes, as relates to care itself. And that in and of itself will require additional work and an additional review. There are 48 recommendations the Facets team indicates are meant to increase the efficiency of the Houston Fire Department with the resources currently allocated to the department. Those recommendations are wide-ranging in scope and include the following. They certainly are saying that we need more revenue, enhanced training, additional staff, specifically asking for more paramedics. And, you know, everyone with the Houston Fire Department, all the firefighters are EMT trained. I think we have approximately 500 that are paramedics, and they are asking for more. They're saying that we need more ambulances, I think approximately 35, but they don't say that we need to make any sort of go in a different direction as relates to the purchase of engines, the big trucks. It just simply said that we need more. New fire stations in Southwest and Central along the Sam Houston Parkway because of the growth that's taking place in our city. Additional IT upgrades, career development, a bigger fleet. They do talk about that. I think since 2011, or last several years, we've kind of centralized our fleet operation. They're saying that we need to take a look at returning that. A better wellness program, a tobacco-free environment. It indicates that we need a second hazmat unit, and that we should work to strengthen our partnerships with local hospitals, and a cancer awareness prevention program. The group also provided recommendations for adding resources as the city continues to grow in the density. This report was commissioned before I became mayor, and I certainly wanted to wait for its completion to review it. It acknowledges the need for more revenue for a fire department that serves a growing population. I like the fact the report notes that how dedicated the Houston Fire Department is, and those who work for the Houston Fire Department, our dedicated employees, our firefighters, no question, do a fantastic job. I certainly want to underscore that. And likewise, our EMS boasts one of the highest cardiac arrest resuscitations and survival rates in the nation. We can certainly agree with that. But there's definitely some useful information here. However, I was a little bit surprised that there are no cost savings to be derived when you look throughout the entire report. I view this report as a starting point for what we need to learn more about. There will certainly be a second, more critical review by my own administration, and I know Councilmember Stardig, as chairperson of Public Safety and Homeland Security, along with her vice chair and the committee as a whole, will examine the report and assess the staffing of the Houston Fire Department over the next several months and throughout the early spring. And I certainly look forward to working with the committee for their constructive and critical analysis. City Council has been provided copies of the report, and there will be a committee meeting next Wednesday, I believe, by her committee to start going through it. At this time, let me call on Chief Rodney West of the Houston Fire Department.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I think the mayor has done a great job of analyzing what we feel about the report. It was a long process, not much unlike the accreditation process, which we recently went through, that fully examines the responses we make, the time that we arrive on those responses, the critical infrastructures within the department. So as he said, we look forward to working with the council members and the public safety chair to continue to improve our service to the citizens, continue to provide safety and safety measures for our members as they respond to the over 300,000 emergencies every year within the city of Houston. Thank you.
And Dr. Peirce.
Thank you, Mayor. I've read the report, and as the mayor pointed out, there are many recommendations, most of which ask for more funds and support. It's a good report in that it points out things where we've come up short. It's a good report in that it points out many of the things that the fire department does well, which probably sometimes go unrecognized. There is work to be done. There's always improvement that can be made. From my standpoint, the number one most important goal from an EMS standpoint, number one, is that we save lives and that we return people to their previous lifestyles. And then second to that, when a life isn't in danger, that we provide good care and high-quality interaction between the fire department and the public. And so we will continue to strive to do that. That'll be our goal, to save lives and to comfort people in their time of need. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Stardig, chairperson of Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we do have a meeting next Wednesday at 2 p.m. in Chambers. The committee, I've discussed it with some of my colleagues, Mayor, that we will be discussing in length the report. The report has been delivered to my colleagues, along with on Monday they will be receiving the presentation that will occur Wednesday at 2 p.m. I encourage everyone to, if you have the opportunity, to review the report. I think the mayor had a fair summary of the findings, but we will have an hour-long report next Wednesday at 2 p.m. I encourage the media to attend, to hear for yourself, or watch on HTV for the public, or online. It's important that you understand that we are here for public safety and to make sure that our citizens are safe, our firefighters are safe, and that everyone does it in the most efficient manner. So it's important to us that everyone is included in the conversations. We will allow for an hour of questions from my colleagues and from the public. We encourage you to come down and sign up to speak as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you.
I also want to acknowledge Alvin White, who is the president of Local 341, and want to acknowledge Marty Langton, who is the president-elect as well. So it's, I know they're here, and I know they have certainly a vested interest in representing all the firefighters with the Houston Police Department. Having said that, if there are any questions, we can take them now.
How much did the report cost, and do you think it was a wise use of money?
The report cost about $297,000 is what the report cost.
And for the whole consulting project?
If you're asking me to make an assessment on whether or not Well, it cost initially, I think the amount that was set aside, if I was not mistaken, was about $2 million, but the city ended up spending $297,000 on it. We will continue to look at, there are some areas that need to be further studied, okay? I certainly wanted to wait to see what they did, and I've reviewed it and probably will be reviewing it again and again. And I look forward to working with the members of City Council as we go forward, as well as working with Local 341 and others as well. You can't do it separate and apart. I think it's a collective effort on the whole deal.
Are you satisfied with the safety recommendations for the firefighters on the report, if there are any?
Well, we certainly want to make sure that the firefighters have everything that they need to do their jobs. You know, they did recommend, for example, a second ASMAC team. So I think that's important, okay? There are some additional things that we need to do to make sure that when they're responding to a fire, they know what they're responding to. I think there are several studies that we're doing, reviews that we're doing pretty much at the same time. So this is one aspect. But in terms, it doesn't provide us with an analysis on critical care and how we respond improves or enhances that critical care component, and that's important. It talks about the response time, but I think we need to have we need to do an additional work on is it just about response? Is it about making sure that we're meeting the needs of people that are calling on us? 87% of the calls are, let's say, EMS related, okay? But the largest percentage of those calls can be attended to by an EMT. And all the firefighters with the Houston Fire Department are EMT trained. Okay. So, it just requires some additional study. I think this is a first glance look at it, and that's exactly how I'm interpreting it. And now we'll drill down even more.
Study came in significantly under budget. Was that by design? Was this study as comprehensive as you would have liked? What accounts for that?
Well, I think when you start with $2 million and you go down to $297,000, you get what you pay for, and I don't want to comment on that. I choose not to look back. I didn't commission it, but I certainly want to take a look at it and evaluate it. But I do think it serves a useful purpose as we move forward. So it's not to say that the $297,000 was wasted. I think it does provide useful information. It does serve as a baseline, and I think that's important. So I think there's a lot of helpful information. We're certainly talking about the need for more, to construct more fire stations in Southwest and Central and the Beltway. I think that's critically important. I think it does talk about trying to get to the recommended national standard, but also it notes that no fire department in the country, I think, has met that national standard. Okay? And I think we should all be striving towards that. I think that's excellent. I think that's good. It does talk about, in many ways, like in EMS, we've made some reductions in quality care staffing, and we need to put that back, because that will help to qualitatively service the needs of all Houstonians, because many of these calls are EMS related. So that staffing needs to be beefed up. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. But I think there are some areas that we need to maybe explore a little bit more. And I think so. It does serve as a baseline. It does serve as a starting point. I do believe that we didn't pay more than what we should have paid, and the information that we received, I think, is beneficial, is helpful.
So among the recommendations, as you mentioned, there are a new hazmat unit on the west side of the city, 3 new fire stations, new medical transport vehicles.
Training.
A whole slew of recommendations that would be very costly quickly. How likely do you think it is that these recommendations are implemented, and if you expect them to be implemented, which ones and over what period of time?
It's hard to say over what period of time. I know the council member with her committee, they're going to be taking a very thorough and detailed look, and I anticipate that their examination will be over the next several months. And in talking with Councilmember Stardig, I think we decided maybe towards the end of March.
First quarter.
Right, to come up with their analysis, and that will proceed when the next budget is presented to the members of City Council. So that's, kind of getting lined up with that. What recommendations end up being accepted is hard to say. But, we have roughly 3,800 firefighters, and we certainly want to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to do their jobs and to do their jobs safely. Public safety for the firefighters, public safety for health and wellness for the people that they are responding to, those are the critical components. Those are the critical components. And then you want to try to do those things in the most efficient and cost-prudent way. You want to respond timely, but you want to make sure that you're providing quality care.
In March of 2014, in particular, there were significant concerns about increases in overtime, and I believe a temporary labor agreement was reached. What in this analysis, if anything, addresses those overtime concerns?
I don't think there's anything in.
The staffing model.
Well,
The staffing model that's recommended in the analysis drives us down to where we have a balance between overtime staffing and regular staffing. You can overprice yourself by trying to staff up to never have overtime. And the city of Dallas did that, and you wind up with extra people. Those salaries and those FTEs wind up costing more than a small percentage of overtime. And the analysis goes into that in detail.
Do you want to speak to that as well, Councilman Stardig?
I think it's important that we get the right match, because we have to have response time, but we also have to make sure we have quality. And when sometimes you pay a premium for that overtime, so it's really important that we make sure that we have that, not to staff to the highs and not to staff to the lows, to make sure we find that good match point, so that we're not paying so much overtime that we price ourselves out, and then we go back to the pension issues and the sustainability of that. So there's all these moving parts that we have to consider, and that's why at my committee, I think, with all the great minds at council, we'll all be working together to ask some really tough questions. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned the state mandated and locally approved caps on revenue, and that's an issue in terms of money for the fire department. What can we do about that? What would you like to see done about that?
About the revenue cap? Well, thank you for asking. Well, from my point of view, and certainly as the mayor of the city of Houston, what I've said is that to the degree we're able to resolve the pension issue, then I will ask the voters in November 2017 to remove the revenue cap. I would not ask the voters to do it unless we're able to get a resolution on the pension issue. But to the extent we're able to resolve the pension issue, I think it's important for all of Houston to participate in shared sacrifice, just like I'm asking employees to do. And I think it would be unfair to ask employees to do one thing if the people in the city of Houston are not prepared to do the other. And even the report itself points out it's not only coming from this report, but when you look at the three credit rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, missing one more, S&P, they point out that the revenue cap, what we self-imposed on ourselves in 2004, is hurting us. And what this is saying, when you look at the capital equipment that we have not purchased, or the staffing that we have laid off since 2011, those things that we have either deferred, delayed, or eliminated, those things have had an adverse effect on the Houston Fire Department. And I do believe when we're asking the men and women of the Houston Fire Department, 3,800, to respond to fires, it is important for them to know what they are responding to. And so we need more inspectors within the fire department so they can be inspecting these businesses instead of letting the last one be 7 years ago. Okay? We need to be expecting them on a much more regular and frequent basis. And so when firefighters are responding to a fire, they should know what they are going to face when they get there. That is a health and safety issue for them and, quite frankly, for the neighbors next door as well. And you can do that without the additional resources. Having a second ASMAC team, that requires more money. Building more stations, that requires more money. Another 35 ambulances, that requires more money. Okay? And quite frankly, even doing a more in-depth study, this may require something more. So you have to have revenue. I know people expect us to operate prudently, conservatively, efficiently. I have that. And they certainly want us to get a resolution on things like pensions. I think we all have that as well. But I think in fairness to firefighters, police officers, and others, you can't ask them to solve one part of the equation without the rest of Houston being prepared to solve the other. So, thank you for asking.
Mayor, you mentioned the fact that you would like to commission a second study at some point. What do you expect?
I won't necessarily say a second study. I do think we can use this one as a starting point. I do look forward to working with the members of City Council as we drill down, working with the firefighters themselves. It cannot be one-sided. I think it's important to have everybody at the table to discuss this as we move together. This is not a one versus the other. This is collectively. The firefighters are just as interested in making sure that we get it right as the members of City Council are making sure we get it right. So
do you not plan on, you'd mentioned before that you would want to revisit this, I think, and
right. You're correct.
come to issue another study. What's the timeline for that?
I think we want to move expeditiously on the whole thing. The committee is starting to meet next week. We're going to be in constant communication, whatever we need to do in order to have all the information before us, especially before we go through another budgetary cycle. I want to make sure that we have all that information. I think we're all in agreement that just based on what we have right now, it's not enough.
It gives us the talking points.
Yeah, we can talk about it, but in terms of implementation, execution, we're not there yet. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned the inspections, and inspections are a problem, but none of the inspections are being logged into this city fire department sandbox system. That's been the case since the sandbox system has been implemented, and there seems to be no plan to get those inspections in there. How will increased inspections help firefighters know what's going to be there if they don't have access to the information inspectors are producing?
Well, you made a statement that may not be accurate. There are plans to have them integrated, digital sandbox and our inspection system. So we are working towards that means, that end.
Well, what's going to happen in the meantime, though? You have situations like Spring Branch that are happening.
Sure,
and then the call to address that issue is increased inspections, but those aren't getting to firefighters. So how is that going to help?
Sure, our firefighters are part of that process in that they do their own inspections. And Digital Sandbox allows our local fire departments to visit the businesses in their community to not only look at what the contents are, but the structure of those buildings, so they know how to properly attack the fires and protect themselves and the community.
Was there a pre-incident plan for A1 custom packaging at the time of the fire?
No.
So firefighters are supposed to be addressing that issue, but there was no pre-incident plan for A1 at the time?
There was none for A1.
Yeah. Do you have a concern about trying to ramp up the number of pre-incident plans that are occurring?
Yes, sir.
Inspections?
Yes, sir, and we're taking actions towards that end as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks, council members.